topic today is inside the mind of a CMO, and I'm guessing that many of you came here today because you know that being a marketing leader or being a CMO today is not an easy job. CMOs and marketing leaders are under enormous pressure. We have ever-increasing pressure to increase the results we're generating, an ever-increasing number of customer channels that we're trying to manage, more marketing activity than ever before. We're responsible for customer strategy while still managing legacy tactical programs. It's not easy, and the scope of responsibility just continues to expand every day. So it's so challenging to be a CMO today that the average tenure of a CMO continues to decrease. Can you guess what it is today?
3 years.
18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 2 years and 5 months. So that's about how long on average CMOs last in their role. And I think even more troublesome is that we're seeing a huge crisis of confidence with marketing leaders and CMOs. So this is a recent Deloitte study of over 500 C-suite executives, and they revealed that CMOs really lack confidence and are struggling to find a voice at the C-suite table. And many of their peers view them more as senior tacticians rather than strategic partners. So only 5% of CMOs actually would rate themselves as being high performing. Isn't that crazy? And if you compare that to their peers in the C-suite, 35% of them would view themselves as being high performing. Yet, on the flip side of this, there are also studies that show when CMOs take a more active role in strategic growth initiatives, companies experience higher long-term growth rates. So, take that. So, what this says to me, and hopefully it says to you also, is that as consumer and customer behaviors and expectations change, as all of these things converge, marketing, innovation, technology, culture, data, customer experience, it's all converging, that really the world needs more marketing leaders. And when I say that, I mean holistic, strategic marketers who can bring a comprehensive perspective to the business. And CEOs and other leaders in the C-suite need that. They need a partner to provide data-driven insight, to contribute to strategic business initiatives, and to demonstrate how marketing drives growth. In fact, the Institute of Corporate Directors at Broten, as part of their program, they talk quite openly about how senior marketing leaders need to shift their dialogue away from activity towards results, because every other member of the C-suite is talking about results, and they still see that CMOs are talking about activity. So all of that to say, I believe it's a great time to be a marketer. We're going through a real marketing renaissance in my opinion, and I'm totally excited. I've been in this business for 20 years. I'm totally excited about where we are and what opportunities lie ahead for strategic marketers. So I think there's a huge opportunity for marketing leaders to increase their influence and to increase their leadership, and most importantly, have a significant impact on the business. So I'm not just gonna have you take my word for it. I'm gonna share the perspective of other marketing leaders as we go through today. This is Ann Loon. She's the CMO of Adobe, and she's talking about the opportunity that is before marketers today.
I mean, this is the craziest time in marketing, and it's pretty much the craziest time in business. So, the list of challenges is long. I would say, there are a lot of changes underway in terms of media, and there's a media explosion. Where do I place my bets? Media that I used to use it's not even here anymore. New media types that I'm not familiar with at all are all the rage. So we do a lot of modeling to figure out where we should place our bets, and I always encourage fellow CMOs to really do a lot of attribution analysis and get really smart and analytical about media. I think there's a lot of effort now on return on investment, and again, these are analytical skills, things that CMOs never really had to grapple with, and so you hire data scientists, we hire developers, we have a lot of very technical, analytical people in marketing now, and sourcing those people and getting that kind of talent isn't always easy, especially in Silicon Valley. There are a lot of opportunities, but I talk to companies, that are in more far-flung places, and it's really hard to source talent there. And then I think, the one positive thing I would say is that marketing now really helps drive business, and all of that analytics has enabled us to really substantiate and give evidence about what the impact of our dollars are. And while that's a challenge to be able to do that, I think that's also given us a huge opportunity and a lot more respect and credibility than we had ever had before.
So I believe that the opportunity far outweighs the challenge, and this speaks to the fact that it's an exciting time in marketing. Raj Rajamanar is the CMO of MasterCard.
There is a lot of accountability in marketing today that the CFOs and the CEOs of companies are putting on. And if the marketers are not able to either talk the language of the business and justify why their investment is there, they get marginalized or even they can get eliminated. To be prepared for this, marketers have to be, particularly CMOs, general managers. They need to understand technology because many of them have budgets, technology budgets, which are bigger than the CTOs, number one. They need to understand data because data-driven marketing really drives precision and efficiency and relevance to the consumers, number two. They need to understand PR because the difference between marketing and PR, literally it's dissolving. They need to understand the business and understand the business drivers so that they are able to clearly connect the dots between the marketing KPIs that they are normally comfortable with and the business metrics and the business results. CMOs and marketing people have to be more general managers with a solid understanding of marketing and a few other functions.
I thought that's an interesting perspective to bring the lens of being a general manager to the business versus that siloed view of marketing. And I really appreciated this perspective. Dusty Jenkins is the head of global communications at Spotify, and he talks about the fact that I don't look at my role singularly focused on marketing and communications. I think about this role as a business strategist just as much as a subject matter expert. So that's a real shift in thinking. I do my research, before I go in, I talk to others in the industry and make sure I'm adding value at the same level as another member of the C-suite. So there's an opportunity there for CMOs and marketing leaders, no doubt. So clearly, the expectations of and opportunities for marketing leaders and CMOs is shifting. And that's really what inspired this session today. I really wanted to better understand what some of the world's leading marketers, CMOs, and marketing leaders are thinking about, what strategies they're doubling down on, what issues they're wrestling with inside their organization. And the goal for today is I'm hoping that you'll leave, yes, a little bit more informed, but mostly I'm hoping that you'll leave inspired to create some change in your organizations, to test the boundaries of what's possible as you build both your brand and your business, and ultimately give you some tools and some confidence to elevate your place in the organization, to take your or strengthen your position at the strategic table and drive more results for your business. So we'll see if we can do that in the next 30 minutes. So quick spoiler alert. When I began this journey, and I really expected to find CMOs entirely focused on technology and entirely focused on data, because as you know, CMOs are investing more in tech than CIOs are today. But interestingly, as I did my research, as I analyzed programs, listened to interviews with CMOs, what I found was a much more balanced approach. And I think what's happening is that as organizations are coming out on the other side of digital transformation, there's a return to a more holistic approach to marketing, where technology is truly an enabler, where people, not customers or not consumers, are at the forefront. So it was interesting because it struck me as being being very much aligned with our approach of humanology, which is all about bringing the power of human insights together with the power of technology to drive results for clients. So now that I've spilled the beans, that's where we're going. Give you a little heads up. So here's how the world's leading CMOs are finding success, and we're going to talk about 5 things today. We're going to talk about driving growth. Number 1, they're driving growth and taking accountability for it. Number 2, they're building purpose-led organizations to build trust and bring humanity back to their brands. Number 3, they're taking ownership of customer experience and bringing people back to the forefront. Number 4, they're disrupting themselves. They're using data and technology to reinvent even what it means to be creative today. And number 5, they're driving organizational alignment through collaboration. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to unpack each of these in a bit more detail. So, number 1, leading CMOs are taking ownership and accountability for driving growth. And it's very much aligned, Jennifer, with what you said. It's all about ROI. So this includes finding new sources of growth. So CMOs are seeking alternative sources of growth, whether that be through customer experience, whether that be through new innovations or entirely different revenue streams. For example, they're much more likely to be tapping into data monetization initiatives and figuring out how to basically generate more revenue for their business. And growth is so important that what we're seeing in large CPG organizations and large pharma companies like Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson is that they've begun to replace their CMOs with CGOs, Chief Growth Officers. So it's a real shift in mindset, and Forrester Research has recently predicted that trend will continue. And why is this happening? Well, I think it's happening because of what we talked about a few minutes ago. CEOs need leaders at the table who are bringing a holistic view and integrated vision for growth. So this Chief Growth Officer role is a hybrid role. It's part marketing, it's part sales, it's part product, it's part tech, it's part consumer advocate. And their role really is to drive growth, but serve both internal functions and external functions. So Francisco Crespo is an example of one such CGO. He's the CGO of Coca-Cola, and he spoke recently at an Investor Day summit on his approach to growth, and I think it's worth listening to.
I would like to start with a thought that is very important, and it's that growth is not an objective. Growth is not an objective. Growth is a discipline. A discipline is training people, lots of people, to act consistently and follow a certain behaviors and rules. But discipline is also a branch of knowledge and a field of study. And when you practice that discipline, then the outcome is growth. And that's what we are looking for here. But growth is necessarily embedded in these 5 principles that I think explain with all clarity what is different, what is new, and why we will get the discipline of growth right.
So it's worth, if you're interested, watching the whole video, but the main point that I wanted you to take away was this concept that growth is a discipline. I think that's a really important perspective to bring forward, and maybe I like it because it's aligned with our perspective. The reason that Jan Kelley developed the growth framework that we use with clients is because we really believe that there's a systematized and disciplined way to organize and drive growth in your organization. But I really like this concept, and I think it's worth thinking about. So if you want to know more about the Jan Kelley growth framework, there are lots of people here who would be happy to talk to you about it. Yeah. Number 2, leading CMOs are building purpose-led organizations, and that's again to build trust and to bring humanity back to brands. And I think we all recognize that the data is very clear. Customers view purpose-driven brands as being more caring, and as a result, they're more loyal. And if you think about employees who have a strong connection to the purpose of their organization are 5.3 times more likely to stay. So leading CMOs are focusing on purpose and on people, and when, again, they're not consumers and employees, but people, and really trying to focus on humanity. And when we talk about purpose, we're not talking about just what makes a brand unique. We're talking about shining a light on the business's evolutionary path, or on clearly articulating what the organization aspires to do and be beyond the products and services that it sells. So if you think about organizations that we interact with every day, for Unilever, it's the environment and taking on plastic. For Nike, it's social justice, and they're taking a stand on that. But it's important to note that social impact isn't just a feel-good anymore. It really has become a strong purchase consideration for both B2B and B2C buyers. So in order to differentiate in 2019, brands really do need to deliver a strong social point of view and be a company that balances both purpose and profits. But as is often the way, we have a say-do gap. So studies show that today 79% of business leaders of an organization view that purpose is central to business success, but yet 68% of them say purpose is not used as a guidepost in leadership decision-making processes within their organization. So we have work to do. This is Mark Pritchard, who's about to, I'll show a clip. He's the Chief Brand Officer of P&G. He spoke at the Makers Conference earlier this year, and it was just after Gillette launched the newly reinvented Best a Man Can Be campaign, if you remember that. And here's what he had to say about purpose.
It's also sparked many questions, like this one that I get a lot. Why are brands involved in social or cultural issues? Why don't they just stick to selling products? Well, today's reality is people expect more from brands than just selling products. They want to know what brands believe in, their values and their views. They want to know the people behind them and the actions that they're taking on important issues. Half of people say they make purchase decisions based on shared beliefs with the brand. And people of all ages, from Gen Z to boomers, expect brands to take a stand.
And Keith Weed is the CMO of Unilever, well, recently retired CMO of Unilever. I think he just retired in the last couple of months. And here's what he has to say about purpose.
I think in a sort of volatile and challenging world, having brands that mean something a little bit more than their sort of simple functional benefits of cleaning hair or cleaning clothes or cleaning houses adds a greater dimension. And in the area of social media, where more people are engaging with brands, if you're a one-dimensional brand, I don't think you have a lot to talk about. But if you're a brand that has a point of view about the world, whether that be environmental or social, then you can have a much richer conversation, both with your current consumers of your brand, but also future consumers as well. Unilever's been interested in purpose for many, many years. So for us, it's not a new thought, it's more building on what we've been doing, both at a corporate level, but also at a brand level. I think one of the reasons actually is social media. I think brands are finding they need to have a voice to engage people. People are increasingly getting concerned about the various challenges, social and environmental challenges in this world. And against that, they're looking for companies to step up, companies to engage with solutions to the future. And if your brand can be part of that, can resonate with people, give ideas about where this world could go, I think that's a positive thing, and the conversation can follow from that. Because at the end of the day, this whole area of purpose, we need to move away from the thought that this is a moral issue. It is, but it's also an economic issue too. If you want your business to thrive, you need to be relevant to consumers today, future employees today, your current employees today. And part of that is to make sure that you have the right dialogue with your brands and with your business with them.
So as it relates to purpose, one of the things that we're seeing is that leading CMOs are leading into this idea of thought leadership in a big way, and they're bringing all of their senior executive peers along with them. So they're taking to social media, they are taking a position, they're sharing a vision for the future, they're talking about why they aspire, what they aspire to do and the impact they aspire to make beyond products and services. They're engaging in conversation, and ultimately they're trying to not only change the way people think about their organization, they're trying to change the way people think in their organization, and they're trying to drive change. And we see this as a really important trend, because it's something that every organization can do, irrespective of size or budget. You can define your purpose, and you can share that through thought leadership. Number 3, leading CMOs are taking ownership of CX. So I think it's unmistakably clear if you're operating in the world of marketing that and business, frankly, that all roads really lead to customer experience. The experience that people have with your brand, your products, your service before, during, and after you buy really determine, number 1, if they even buy from you, and number 2, if they remain your customers. And there's been a lot of work done by many organizations, many companies already to establish the foundation for a great experience. Many of you have already done a lot of work, and we've supported some of you to do that. But here's the difference. Leading CMOs are really actively working on Experience 2.0. So they're working on optimizing all of the elements of the mix, the people, the process, the technology, to drive that next level experience. And if you think about what's different, what's the level, what's the secret to their success? They're putting the customer at the forefront. That's what all good customer experience folks do. But it's not just in their thinking and their vision, and not just in the services they provide. It's really in how they pivot and adapt as a company. So they're creating a living business, an agile business that continually adapts to their customers' needs and wants at speed and scale, to always be working to provide maximum value. So it's very fast moving, it's very real time. And so what's enabling this? Well, very much it's technology. AI and machine learning are making hyper-personalization a reality. And if we think about one-to-one marketing and personalization, that has been that promise has been around for 20 years. But really, today, let's be honest, many brands still send out messages that are not very personalized, that are mostly generic, and sometimes irrelevant. And in some ways, the proliferation of data and siloed marketing stacks has made the idea of personalization easier to see. We see it, we want to get it, but it's actually harder to attain because it's so complex. But really, AI and machine learning are changing the game on this, and they're changing the nature of how marketers make decisions and deploy campaigns. And while we as humans will still be in control as it relates to strategy and creative, machines are can analyze and process and drive personalization at a massive scale. So when we talk about personalization, what are we talking about? Well, it's advanced real-time customization of content, of offering, and of customer experience. And it ultimately drives us to this idea of this goal of predictive personalization. And I think what's interesting is that it's quickly becoming accessible to all marketers, not just this elite few. One of the gold standards as it relates to hyper-personalization is our friend Starbucks. So they recently relaunched their Starbucks Reward program in April. If you recall, I'm sure many of you partake in it. You and 16 million others partake in this. Amazingly, 40% of their sales in the US happens on Starbucks Reward. It's crazy. But it's all about hyper-personalization, and that's what the program makeover was about. It was about customers earning stars to be able to reward, to be able and being able to redeem them more quickly and the way that they want. So Matt Ryan, the CMO, spoke when they launched the program, and they said, with loyalty programs, people like to have different options for redeeming. Under the program, depending on what you want, in as little as 2 or 3 visits, you can have it. And then he goes on to say, quite simply, when we make things better for the customer, we make them better for our business. And again, that is all about hyper-personalization. So the other thing that's happening as it relates to CX and digital transformation is that CMOs are really driving digital transformation for customer experience. Digital transformation on the whole really has become business transformation, and that's being led by a multidisciplinary enterprise-wide team. It's a huge endeavor. But CMOs and leading CMOs continue to drive transformation as it relates to CX. And the studies are all suggesting that the more a CMO is involved in that part of the digital transformation, the more the customer experience is authentic, is inspiring, and is engaging. This is Alicia Tillman. She's the CMO of SAP, and she has a perspective on data, on customer experience, and on the role that the CMO
I think that we have a new form of data. So data as a marketer has historically been in the form of helping us understand where our buyer is, and then managing the effectiveness or measuring the effectiveness of the content in which we're sharing with them. We now have this new form of data that allows us to get closer to the customer. Each time they experience our product or brand in interaction with one of our employees, being able to understand their feelings with each and every one of those experiences, I think it helps to reposition what marketing can deliver to their companies in terms of what it means to be the voice of the customer. And so that's a tremendous evolution. It's not just about managing the performance of marketing, but how can you really help your company become customer first? We live in an experience economy. Business today is won or lost based on the quality of the experiences that you create. And if you can get better in touch with your consumer and marry that with the operations of your business, marketers can really be the voice of the customer and help their customer companies win in this experience economy that we live in. So I think between purpose and experiential data to help their customers win, it's a beautiful role for marketers to be able to leverage the role that they play on behalf of their companies.
So this is my quote. When you truly understand your customers, you can make decisions more effectively, you can tap technology and innovative ideas to transform the customer experience, and you can delight people in ways that matter to them. And I think it's the ways that matter to them that is what we mean when we talk about Experience 2.0 and true, deep hyper-personalization. Number four, I should have put numbers. Note to self, put numbers next time. Number 4, leading CMOs are disrupting themselves. They are using data, they're using technology to really reinvent what it means to be creative. And as you know, there are a number of transformative technologies that are all poised to explode over the next few years and are starting to already. So AI, machine learning, autonomous vehicles, blockchain, they are all poised to have massive impact, but there's a few things that are kind of rising to the top to be top of mind with CMOs, and they're investing in these to ultimately achieve that holy grail of marketing, which today is, this is the part where you answer, today is customer experience, right? That's really where all of this is headed. So this is Karen Walker. She's the CMO of Cisco, and she has a perspective on disruption and technology.
I think we're just getting started, as I said. I think AI and ML is going to make our jobs so much easier, but I think we focus on GDPR and data privacy, all that thing. We have to think about how analytics and ML is going to make our customers smarter by making better decisions, how we're going to make it a better experience for them, in that if I know who my most loyal or influencer customer is, then I can give them a better and differentiated experience. So I'd like us to turn our thoughts away from what does the technology allow for us as a profession as to what does it allow to do to delight our customers in a new way.
So I already talked about AI and machine learning as an enabler of hyper-personalization and true, deep, predictive, one-to-one marketing. We know that there are brands that we interact with every day that are doing this really well. Spotify, Amazon, Netflix. What I did want to spend a couple of minutes talking about was 5G. And the reason is that, so Deloitte issues a media, telecommunications, and technology set of predictions every year, and in February of this year, they named 5G as the most important trend in the industry over the next 1 to 5 years. So why is that? Well, 5G, and Jennifer from Innovation Factory would know all about 5G, and I had a slide in here actually about what you guys are doing at CITM, and I took it out. We can have a whole nother session on that. So they have a Center for Integrated Transportation and Mobility, and it's all focused on autonomous and connected vehicles and all of the things that 5G is going to enable. So let's have you back for a whole different session on that, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Just got
voluntold.
I know, right?
You're in.
That's how she does that. Eh?
You're in. So 5G is important because it's 150 to 200 times faster than 4G. And amazingly, the latency, we should play a game with this one. Guess what the latency is, the delay. I don't have any prizes. I should have had prizes. So it's 1 millisecond. So it's almost real time. So if you think about that, that is a real game changer. So we're still quite a few years away from having a ubiquitous 5G network. But many of the world's leading CMOs are already asking themselves how this network can help them create that better customer experience, and they're looking at how 5G might be able to address some of those big friction points in their customer journey and improve them, and even change the nature of apps. You know, if you start going down that path, you think, why do we need an app if we've got a latency of 1 millisecond? So it will be a real game changer, and it will really enable a huge leap forward as it relates to connected experiences, both in store and online. And you will see as a consumer that there are companies like Nike and Adidas who are heavily experimenting with AR to try shoes, to buy shoes, to create experiences. Has anyone played with any of, interacted with any of their AR experiences? They're very cool. They're very cool. And yes, they're very cool, but that's not why they're doing it. They're running these pilot programs and trying to get good at AR because they see that 5G is going to enable this in a big way. So if they can learn to harness the technology right now, as 5G becomes more mainstream, they'll be ahead of the curve. And that leads us, we couldn't have a presentation on what's on the minds of CEOs if we didn't spend a little bit of time talking about data. So, and we will likely have a whole nother session on data at some point in time, but I wanted to point out that all marketing leaders are spending more time on data management than ever before. So whether it be data sources, data collection, data reporting, data accuracy, data trust, data security, these are all issues that every marketer is wrestling with and trying to wrestle to the ground. And that's really one of the biggest reasons that leading CMOs are transforming their own organizations and adopting Agile. So we see that leading organizations are already creating highly integrated multidisciplinary teams. So they're merging design and data and engineering and marketing teams together. But also importantly, there's new roles being created. One of the most popular roles that CMOs are creating is Director of Marketing Data. And so that person is now responsible for connecting human, machine, system together across a company. They're bringing in roles like data integration and marketing data architects to, again, interact with vendors to figure out how to integrate all of the data, to set rules and processes and structure in how we're going to collect and feed all of our data into those CDPs, those customer data platforms. And the other shift that's occurring is that training, right? Organizations are leveling up and investing in training in a big way. Once upon a time, if we thought about what's important to a marketing department, we'd think number 1, budget, number 2, tools, number 3, talent. That is entirely flipped on its head today. So talent first, tools second, budget third. So there's a huge investment in training your core teams. And they're adopting Agile so that they can be faster, so that they can be more responsive, so they can pivot and ultimately be that living business, that Agile living business that will enable them to create that optimal customer experience. This is Keith Weed from Unilever again, and he's talking about the role of talent and training.
I think one of the things going on right now is the world is changing fast. And funnily enough, change will never be as slow again as it is today. It's going to get faster and faster. We're going to speed it up with AI. We're going to speed it up with bots. So I think the biggest challenge for business leaders and marketers right now is making sure they're up to speed with the change that's going on around them, and so are their teams. So building capabilities has never been so important. We have to find ways of learning about not only today, but the future. You need to invest in yourself as well. And I've learned coding. Am I ever going to do any coding? No. But do I have an appreciation of what it means, its limitations? Yes. And I think you need to do that. You need to have a real commitment to capability building across the organization.
So when we talk about capability building, it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean training your current team. It can mean augmenting your team. It can mean inventing entirely new roles. And it can mean working with partners like Kelley to help fill in some gaps, some skill gaps along the way. Number 5, the last thing that leading CMOs are doing to drive success. Their leading CMOs are driving organizational alignment through collaboration. In order to drive the kind of growth that is expected of CMOs, marketing leadership has to drive a collaborative and customer-obsessed culture. Silos and empires just don't work anymore. And organizations that are winning are organizations where marketing leaders are stepping up as the lead collaborator. And that's full stop. We can see that across the board. And if marketing is to drive growth through creating these truly memorable customer experiences, they have to engage every part of the organization to do that. That can't happen in a silo. And they're expected to. So 90% of organizations view CMOs as the connective tissue between different lines of business. So that is the new role of the CMO. But as we have alluded to a couple of times today, there's a gap. We have work to do. CMOs are not engaging as often as the rest of the C-suite in cross-functional collaboration. There's some studies that show that only 17% of CXOs have reported that CMOs have collaborated with them in the last year. So there's a real disconnect if you're talking about trying to improve the customer experience. And studies also show that collaborative CMOs are 27% more likely to report delivering a superior customer experience. So collaboration drives better results. We know this to be true. It's hard to do, but it's important. And just in case I haven't convinced you, I'm going to throw more stats at you. Leading CMOs collaborate, they simply collaborate more. And it's not a little bit more, it's a lot more. So they're collaborating with customer service 35% more than their peers. With IT, 30% more. With sales, 27% more. With HR, 25% more. So it's a big effort. This is not inconsequential, but leading CMOs and marketing leaders are seeing that in order to achieve the results that they are seeking, they have to invest the time in driving collaboration and bringing the organization along with them. And there's proof to say that it works. So Series Decisions does a nationwide survey every year, and they found that alignment of sales, marketing, and operations results in 19% faster revenue growth for companies and 15% higher profitability. So there's a business case for making that investment. This is my last clip of the day. This is Linda Boff. She is the CMO of GE, and she's talking. She talks a little bit about, quite a bit about technology at the beginning, and then towards the end, she gets to this idea of collaboration.
I think to be a CMO today, you have to love and embrace technology. You don't need to know how to code. I have to raise my hand. I do not know how to code. But you have to appreciate the role of technology as an enabler in driving personalized campaigns, as an enabler in terms of creating a seamless customer experience, as an enabler in terms of how people are going to be living their lives. Voice will become a huge part, has already, I think, become a huge part of how we live our lives. Machine learning, being able to predict what is, what people are looking for, what industrial environments are like. So I think I do love technology, and I almost sort of pity the person who doesn't, because I think you're right there. You know, whether it's your CTO, CIO, and CMO, Chief Customer Officer, Chief Experience Officer, we're all in the huddle together.
So I like that idea. We're all in the huddle together. In order to win the battle for customers, collaboration between CMOs, CFOs, and CTOs is completely imperative. In fact, so much so that there's, I listened to an interview recently of a leading e-commerce CMO, and he talked about the fact that they have finance people embedded in their marketing team so that they can review channel performance, and they can continually really look at how they're investing their dollars and how they're optimizing their mix. They've got a marketing technology team embedded in the CIO organization, but they report to marketing because integrations are so critical, and you've got to be able to do that quickly and be agile. And he also talked about collaboration between Chief Product Officer and Chief Marketing Officer, because now the marketing organization has all of this insight as it relates to customers and what their preferences are and what their needs and wants are, and that can quickly inform product and service innovation as well. So that's it. Those are the 5 things that leading marketing CMOs are doing to drive success. We talked about the fact that the world needs more marketing leaders. I really believe that to be true. Marketing leaders who are driving growth, who are building purpose-led organizations, who are taking ownership of CX, who are disrupting themselves, and who are driving organizational alignment through collaboration. So I'm going to leave you with some tips or some advice for taking a stronger strategic position in your organization. Number 1, give yourself permission to lead. Your peers are looking for your input, your insights, and your active participation in the strategy of the company. Number 2, take accountability for growth and for driving ROI. That's the way you earn credibility. Number 3, own the customer experience. Be the voice of the customer. Number 4, challenge your status quo, both externally and internally. And number 5, always be the first to connect and collaborate with your customers, with your partners, and with your internal colleagues. So, friends, our time together has come to an end. I've gone a little bit longer. It's 9:08, but we started late. We were enjoying the conversation. So I've appreciated the time to share this perspective with you. Thank you for making the time this morning to come out and listen. I hope you found it informative and useful and maybe even a little bit inspiring. If you have any questions or comments, this would be the time. We've got